Hi, welcome to the first episode of the Adventures of Foodini podcast. I thought I would spend this episode talking about how this all came to be, really, the journey from the beginning with his diagnosis, what he was diagnosed with, his development and reaching his milestones, things like that, as a little one. So he tracked fairly normally as a toddler and a baby. He was crawling by 6 months, fully walking by 10 months. So there was not really any red flags at that point. He started saying words, and he probably had about 20 of them, I would say, till he just one day regressed. So the backstory with that is that we ended up moving house. So we bought our first house. We'd been renting until he was around that 18 months mark. And when we moved, he just became very reserved, and he went from this quite boisterous little guy that was chatty and, you know, waving and feeding himself and interested in toilet training and things like that. And then one day he just woke up and he just stopped. He didn't lose his ability to walk, but he lost everything else. He stopped blowing kisses, he stopped waving, he stopped saying words. All of a sudden he was like very against toilet training. So it was quite weird and confronting to have that happen. And I think at the time we just put it down to he was unsure of his new surroundings and still trying to work them out. And so we just thought, oh, he's just gone back in his shell, you know, kind of thing. And it wasn't until we had a checkup with a nurse that she pointed out the red flags, I guess, with the regression in abilities to do things. And that's when we were first introduced to the idea of him being autistic. And we do, on my husband's side, have family members that are autistic and have been diagnosed as autistic. None of them were non-speaking, so Phoenix was kind of the first person to be diagnosed as with non-speaking autism. But yeah, the nurse said to us, it looks to me like it's regressive autism. I'm going to refer you to a pediatrician. So that was our next stop, and we went to a pediatrician, and it was weird. He did all the tests and things, sent us off for genetic testing. The genetic testing came back normal. So the genetic testing tests for a lot of other things that they don't amount to autism, but they look for things like genetic markers for like chromosomal deletions and things like that. They look at they do like a physical check of the child, make sure that their ears are proportionate size, for example. They check everything: toes, feet, fingers, eyes, ears, all that stuff. So we got that done. It all came back normal, and he didn't really want, this pediatrician, he just didn't really want to diagnose him as autistic. And he kind of said to us, I think he's borderline. And mind you, Phoenix was, he'd turned 2, so he was probably 2 years and 3 months old by this stage. And he just said to me, I think it's PDD-NOS, but that is no longer in the DSM-5, so I'm just going to diagnose him as autistic level 2 so you can get some funding for early intervention, things like that. And it was just a bit strange, because I was like, why would you diagnose him if you're not sure? But yeah, he did, and as time went by, it became more and more obvious that that was the correct decision. He, as we hit that schooling age, he was showing more obvious signs, and it was more, I guess too, because once you get into that schooling age where he's going to prep and kindy and things like that, you don't mean to, but you compare your child to other children, obviously, and I could just see that he was different from everyone else. And yeah, so he ended up, we ended up going to a different pediatrician in the end, and he decided that Phoenix was actually a level 3, which I feel was the correct decision. Generally, people that are non-speaking and autistic are level 3. That's just usually what they decide to put them at, which level 3 is classified as severe. So when he was diagnosed with that, he was also diagnosed ADHD, and that was around the 6-year-old mark, which is fairly normal because it kind of comes out more prominently at that school age where, you know, kids are learning to sit still and do, you know, work at a desk and things like that, and Phoenix is just not physically capable of doing that. So there was, that was kind of how he was, I guess, he tracked and how he came to be diagnosed with what he was diagnosed with. I didn't notice any red flags when he was a little one. In hindsight's a great thing. I look back now and I go, okay, yeah, there was some sensory issues there with food, specifically, and like stuff on his hands. He hated sticky stuff. He refused to finger paint. If anything was sticky, he had to wash them straight away. I remember we were doing a cake smash for his first birthday, and he just wouldn't do it. And I look back now and I feel absolutely horrible. But we decided to help him do it, thinking, oh, maybe he just doesn't understand that, you know, you can smash this, it's okay. And I just remember his reactions. I've got photos somewhere, and he is just not impressed by it. He's making faces, and he just looks horrified, really. And it's not horrified in a like, oh my goodness, what have I just done? It's like, you'll get this off me, horrified. And the same with food. He was not long before that, really. He wouldn't have been 1 year, I don't think, but he was eating like a Pluto pup, which, if you're American, that's like a corn dog. And he didn't have the stick in it or anything like that, obviously. But he's taken a bite of the outer coating, and he seemed okay with that. He was like, yep, this isn't bad. As soon as he bit into that sausage, he was... like his face changed, he screwed up his nose and things, and I thought, oh, he's just being dramatic, because, you know, you see videos all the time of little kids trying new foods and they screw their faces up and they do all sorts of stuff like that. And so I did push him to then try again, and upon trying again he gagged, and I thought he was going to throw up, and I don't know why, but part of me just thought, no, that's enough. Which, as I say, you see videos all the time of kids being dramatic, and at the time I thought that was probably what it was, but something in the back of my mind was like, no, there's something more to this. So, excuse me. So there was signs, but I didn't see them as signs at the time, if that makes sense. I just put it more down to, I don't know, personal preference, personality, that kind of thing. But once your child's diagnosed, that's when you start trying to work out where it came from. Anyone that has a child that has been diagnosed with anything, really, anything that's any neurodivergence or what have you, they try to pinpoint where it's come from, especially if it's like genetic. And for us, it is very genetic. And it wasn't until much later on that my husband and I were like, yeah, okay, he gets this from me, he gets that from you. And it wasn't necessarily personality traits. It was, you know, more, I guess, clinical stuff. And that's when that kind of pushed us to get assessed to see if maybe we were on the spectrum ourselves. And lo and behold, we are. It's the neurodivergent pipeline. And so my husband's autistic and ADD, and I'm autistic ADHD. So I wasn't diagnosed until I was like 32, something like that. But it made more sense. But of course, you also start looking at every other family member and trying to work out who else is autistic, because where did you get it from? And yeah, so it just continues on like a domino effect. And before long, you've diagnosed half your family. But yeah, it's an interesting journey to go through. There's also that self-discovery element, and I'm actually quite grateful for what Phoenix has taught me, because it's taught me a lot about myself. And I probably would have gone through life had I not had him and not even known that I was autistic, I probably would have just been like, I'm weird. And because I remember feeling that way my entire childhood. I was always too much, or I was too loud, and I was too this and I was too that. And knowing what I know now, it just makes sense. And I feel less apologetic about it because it's just who I am, and that's just the way I'm wired. So it's he's made me like, I don't know, I advocate more for myself as well, and he's definitely taught me to stand up for myself. And I've never been big on confrontation, but having a child on the spectrum with high needs, specifically, you have to learn to, I don't know, lean into the confrontation, because it happens a lot. Whether you're out and about and you've got people judging you and staring at your child having a meltdown, or vocally stimming, or whatever the case may be, you have to develop a thicker skin, because it happens all the time. It doesn't matter what you do, and you can't lock yourselves away forever. It's, sometimes you feel that like that's what you should do and would be easier, but it's not the right thing to do, ultimately. So he's taught me a lot, and upon getting my own diagnosis, it's helped me understand him better. We're not the same, everyone is different, but it has helped me to stop and pause and assess the situation from his point of view, using my point of view. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just I can relate more to him now that I know what I know. Which, it seems a bit weird to say that out loud, because, like, what's changed? You were who you were before, but there's just that deeper understanding, I think. And, you go and you research, especially when your child's first diagnosed. It's just research, and you just want to read everything that's available, and there's so many mixed signals. And the same thing happens with the doctors. When Phoenix was diagnosed, we were told so much doom and gloom. There was no positivity at all, and we just were constantly told what he would never do. And that is a lot when you're going through something like that. It's a diagnosis like that is life-changing, because the moment it happens, you're in shock, but you don't really know what that means. And for that first point of contact to be doom and gloom, it's not what you need. And I know that doctors and professionals mean well when they kind of set you up with those expectations. It's to try and soften the blow just in case they don't make it, but it also is so counterproductive, because not everyone's going to take that and go, well, I'll show you, and push harder. Some people just go, well, now what? Like, that's it, it's done. And it's just not right. When Phoenix was diagnosed, we were told he would never talk, which he doesn't. He can say a few words and sound out a few letters, but he communicates, and that, I think, is also the most important part of it all, is that when you first realise that your child's never going to talk, all you want is for them to talk, and that's not what they need. They need to be able to communicate. So being able to flip that on its head and go, well, it doesn't matter if they don't talk, as long as they have a way to communicate, that's all you need. They can communicate, then it's all good. Like, what's the difference, really? Because talking is just communication. So it took me a long time to get to that point where I was accepting of that and kind of push those feelings aside of like, oh, I'll never hear his voice, I'll never hear him say he loves me and things like that. But this kid, he signs it to me. He can use his talker and tell me. It's the same thing. It's still coming from him. It's just not coming out of his mouth. And so when you're told things like that, there's a lot of timelines that they attach to things too. Like when I was told he would never talk, they said, oh, he'll never talk if he doesn't talk by this age. And every time he reached that age, it was like grieving again. We were told like about 6 years of age, if he doesn't talk by then, he will never talk. And then the 6-year mark came around, and he didn't talk, and then the doctor said, oh, it's actually 8 years now. So it just kind of moved the goalposts and prolonged the grieving process. And then it was 12, and then you started to watch other people's journeys, and you're like, well, that person didn't talk, they were 21. So, you know, you never know. It could happen, it might not, but it's not about waiting around to see if it's going to happen. It's about putting things in place just in case it doesn't. And that doesn't mean that there's been a failure. It's, as I say, it's communication is the most important part. But we were told he'd never be toilet trained, and he was toilet trained just before his 4th birthday. We were told he would never love anyone or bond with anyone, and he is the most social kid, sometimes too social, and if he loves you, you know that he loves you. So they couldn't have been more wrong about so many things. And those kinds of things, those are the things that really break your heart when people turn around and say, oh, your kid's never going to love you, or bond with you, or anything like that. And as I say, everyone is different. I've got friends that have autistic kids that don't like to be touched at all. And I've got friends that have autistic kids that do not stop trying to touch you. So it's like, you know, it's either sensory overload or nothing. It's almost like there's no middle ground. So for Phoenix, he is very affectionate and very touchy-feely. He's been like that for as long as I can remember. He's always wanted to have some point of contact with me. And that's, I suppose, an anxiety thing too. If you can't talk and your safe person is your voice, then you feel safest when you're closest to them. And the same thing went for co-sleeping stuff. He didn't actually sleep in his own bed until my accident, and it was almost not forced upon him, but he just kind of decided in that moment, I think, that he was ready. And I don't really know why, but sometimes there is no reason for something. He must have just been ready, and it just happened to be a coincidence and line up with the accident. But he's been in his own bed ever since, and he hasn't looked back. So that's, yeah, I mean, it's funny because when they're in your bed, all you want is to get them out of your bed and have your own personal space. But once they're gone, it's almost like a little bit of a grieving process because they're growing up and that kind of thing. But I'm super proud of him for that, because it was a very big point of anxiety for him growing up. When he was little, he wouldn't sleep or fall asleep unless he was on me, in a chair kind of thing, and we'd have to transport him to his bed, and then he would want to hold my hand and trying to sneak out of his bedroom with a commando roll and things like that. It didn't really work in the long run, and he would either stay up all night or he would end up in my bed anyway. So it was the difference between getting sleep and not getting sleep. So and if you're a parent of a neurodivergent child, sleep is like liquid gold. You need it. It's very important. And so that's pretty much his, I guess, early years journey with diagnosis. He was also diagnosed with sensory processing disorder at the same time that he was diagnosed autistic. And I don't think they really use that so much anymore because it ties in so much to autism and other conditions like that. But he's been on watch for OCD for a very long time, and I'm pretty sure he's got it. But he's got PTSD as well, but he wasn't diagnosed with that until I think he was 9 years old. But that stems from trauma in certain environments, which I'll get into at some stage in a different episode. That's a very long story. But yeah, he's had a lot of challenges in his life, and I mean, he's had a lot of surgeries and things like that. He needed grommets when he was little because he kept getting ear infections. He had reflux as a baby. There's so many different things, and I just look at him and I'm just in awe of him because he just is so resilient and so brave, and he still finds a way to love life and just want to live to the fullest extent that he possibly can. And he wants what everyone else wants, and he needs what everyone else needs. And that's, I think, the most frustrating part for non-speaking people, is they're automatically looked at as stupid or dumb because they can't talk. But we don't treat blind people like that, or deaf people like that. We don't assume that they have a non-functioning brain, you know. So I find that is probably his biggest struggle too, is the way people treat him to his face and the way they talk to him. We often get people talking down to him like he's a baby, very condescending tone, you know, like you would talk to a puppy or a baby. And I just talk to him like I talk to anybody, because he is just like anybody else. And I mean, he's almost a teenager now, and he doesn't want you to talk to him like he's 2 months old. So that is probably the biggest challenge that we face regularly, is people just not knowing how to interact with him. And often it's not malicious, but I guess in this day and age, there's so much stuff out there to educate yourself. There's not really any excuse to be ignorant. So I guess, yeah, that's why we're doing this, really, is to... His story is an important one, and it's not a rare one, so to speak. There's so many people out there like this, but there's a lot of people that it's just, the world is just too much, and it's too scary to go out, and it's too scary to face that potential judgment. And we want to be able to help people feel more confident to get out there and try things. You know, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. It's often going to be uncomfortable, but you feel so much better after you do it. I see the way Phoenix kind of winds up, and he's a little nervous and anxious when he's decided to do something new. And it's always his decision. I've never said to him, no, we're doing this. You just got to suck it up and deal with it. I've always offered him things, and then he has decided himself whether or not he would like to pursue that. And he will often say no to begin with. And so I respect that. And I will just throw it out there every now and then to see if he's changed his mind, because he's entitled to do that, just like everyone else. And yeah, he surprises me. One day he'll come up to me and ask me for it, and I was like, oh, okay, you're ready, you've thought about it, you've had some time to analyze it. And yeah, he just makes that decision that he's ready to take that leap. It's not something that is without anxiety. He often has that anxiety in the lead up to it, but I watch him once he's doing it, and you can just see how proud he is of himself and how important it was for him to give that a go. And I always say that to expect the unexpected with him, because there's been so many times where we've thought there's no way he's not going to like that, and he's asked for something, we thought he thinks he's going to like that, but I don't think that's how it is going to be. Like, he's not realizing that it's like this. He might be thinking it's like this. And yeah, he proves us wrong all the time. I don't even question that stuff anymore. I go, oh, okay, you want to do that, righto, let's work out a way to do that. I mean, I'm going to draw the line at things like skydiving and bungee jumping. There's no way. He watches some videos and I just think, you don't want to do that, right? Because I mean, like, I'm all for getting out of my comfort zone, but there's some things I don't want to do. But I try not to let that hold him back, though. It's very important for him to have his own things, and if it's something that he really wants to do that I really don't, I will try to find a way for that to be possible. And yeah, he's his own person. And that's the thing, is I used to think often I'd give him foods, for example, and they're foods I eat, but then I'm like, well, what if he likes things I don't? You know, you just automatically give your kids what you like, I feel. And the amount of food that he likes that I do not like, I'm just like, wow, okay, you actually have a more flavoursome diet than your own mother. Like, out of all of us in the household, I have the most restrictive diet. I am not I'm not like at that like don't let the foods touch kind of level, but I can't, for example, have a stir fry where you've got noodles and sauce and meat and vegetables all mixed together. I can't do it. I just can't. I think it's a texture thing. I think it's all the different, like there's crunchy and there's soggy and there's hard and soft and all that kind of stuff all mixed in together, and I just can't do it. But he can. He absolutely loves it, and that's him. So yeah, there's so much to, I guess, unpack about Phoenix. He's just such a cool kid, and as I say, I'm just so proud of him and the young man he's becoming, and he's just, anyone that meets him absolutely adores him, and yeah, it's just, we're very fortunate to have so many people that have always kind of had his back and supported him and supported the family, and I wish that for everybody. I think it's very important that you have people around you that understand, and you may not have found them yet, but you will. It's just, they come into your life at the weirdest times, and sometimes you don't even know you need them until you've got them. So as I say, I want that for everybody. And yeah, so over the next episodes and things like that, I'll chat about all sorts of things, how he toilet trained him, what kind of communication methods he uses, because he uses a lot, and that's another thing that I absolutely think is amazing about him. He might not talk, but my goodness, has he got options. Like, it's incredible. And yeah, so there's all sorts of stuff, but if you want us to specifically talk about something, a particular topic, then feel free to comment ideas and things like that, because I'm more than happy to answer questions and the like. But so thank you so much for joining me for the first ever episode, and hopefully I have a surgery coming up next week, so we'll see when I'll be able to drop the next one, but at this stage I'll be signing off. So until next time, be kind to yourself.